Hello and welcome to this edition of Diaspora Central. I am Gil Ingles, and with me today, by way of Washington, D.C., this lady should have an African passport. She is known as Mrs., I should say, Africa all over. Bonita Adeeb of Steam Onward. Welcome to Diaspora Central.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, no, definitely a pleasure to have you over. This is one of these platforms where we try to feature Africans of the diaspora in which they can tell their stories in their own voices so that no one will tell their story for them. Are you ready for that?
Um, I believe I am.
Yeah, all right. Because we know that you have a lot of stories to tell. You have traveled throughout the African continent a lot. And many people don't actually know that you were not born in Africa. You were actually born in the continental USA.
People don't believe that, but that's okay. I was born in Detroit, Michigan.
All right, so Detroit, Michigan. So I should say US stand up because Diaspora Central today is well represented with Miss Bonita Adeeb. All right, so Bonita, let's go ahead and get into your childhood. Let's try to establish a little bit of your heritage. And many people know you as this activist, this defender of children, this educator, this community guidance counselor, this pillar that does not allow her community to go down, and at any cost she has been trying to sustain. She has been representing Charles County, Southern Maryland. I mean, you name it, and she's been involved in it in order to ensure that not only minorities were represented, and I say minorities, not just black people, minorities have been well represented. But as we all know, that doesn't quite start overnight. It's normally a process and it comes from somewhere. So let's try to establish the heritage and try to connect those dots to figure out how was Bonita formulated to get to the point where she has gotten today. Let's go ahead and start where you told us that you were born in Detroit, Michigan. And can you tell us what schools you went to?
Oh, I went to school. We traveled a lot when I was a child. My family fled the Jim Crow South to move to California. And I went to school at San Jose, at UCLA, and Cal State, Los Angeles,
Okay.
studying a whole myriad of educational opportunities, particularly interested in children who were classified as special ed that I knew were geniuses in their own right,
Right.
and particularly looking at working with my young brothers because my young brothers have gotten a raw deal many times in public education.
Okay. Now, special education, that's actually a subject that eventually this program will have to touch, but maybe you can shine a little bit of light. I know that I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to address this. Can you kind of shine a little bit of light on that in all honesty, and this is for the benefit of those parents who may have children probably getting this diagnosis, on how legitimate that diagnosis is, and what would you recommend that they would probably do if their child by any chance was to be diagnosed or was diagnosed with one of these deficiencies. What approach should they take in order to improve their child's life, or to challenge maybe the diagnosis if it's not accurate?
Well, I think the easiest path is to know what's coming and head it off.
Okay.
Make sure that your child cannot be referred to as too special
Okay.
because they can't read or don't know their colors or basic things like that. So I suggest that you start reading to that child before that child is born. I have one grandchild, and when he was about 6 months, maybe 5 or 6 months in utero,
Mhm.
his mother started reading to him. Get an early start on it because he's going to probably face a series of challenges. But I truly believe that reading and teaching your children in advance is probably the best head start. And also helping your child understand who they are as an African person,
Right.
no matter whether they were born on the continent
Hmm.
or born outside of the continent, know who they are and stand tall in that. Have them stand on the shoulders of their ancestors, and
Right.
that pride will carry them through.
Yeah, definitely. You are someone who has familiarized yourself very well with Africa, has traveled to Africa several times. As a matter of fact, you have co-authored works pertaining to the continent. What exactly sparkled that, um, or sparked, excuse me, sparked that in you?
Well, let's just tell the truth. I grew up in a family of Pan Africanists. My
Okay.
family were followers of the Garvey movement.
Hmm.
The all the plan was to always go back to Africa.
Okay.
I was taught that dark girls were beautiful. I was beautiful because I was so dark. That meant that I
Right.
had less abuse. My ancestors had abuse, although they had their share.
Hmm.
And also the stories that I was told from my family as a very small child always praised the Africans on our family tree.
Right.
Great grandma Suki and how she would box with master and fight for her children. So the pride and the battle, the fight was put in me, from the time before I could talk.
Right.
That was an important thing. My mother sang to me, Nkosi Sikaleli,
Hmm.
and of course she sang it to you and everybody else she
Right.
met,
Right.
because my mother felt that Africa was our home and we should know who we were
Right.
in order to thrive in this country. How could we make it and be, people who are without a history?
Right.
So we have to know that, and we have to teach it, preach it, celebrate it. And if you're with Gil, you probably party with it a little bit too.
See, now you're giving me a reputation. people
Well,
already
it's
think
true.
people already think that I'm this party animal. I just throw parties, and then I allow people to enjoy themselves. I'm the one who's probably kicking back, just watching everybody else having fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But definitely, I do believe that when it is African, it needs to be celebrated. That's what we like to do. That's what we tend to do. That's what we should do. It keeps us happy, keeps us upbeat. And we have suffered a lot. And it's just part of our being to celebrate. So
Yeah,
yeah,
through hard
definitely.
times,
Hmm. Now what?
singing the blues,
Right, right,
that's all part of it.
indeed.
Celebrating hard times and and thriving through hard times.
Right. And that seems to be one of the forms of documentation also that we culturally have, because that's where all the stories are told, and later on passed on from generation to generation. It tends to be in those types of gatherings where celebrations are normally happening. You for instance, have been one of the tremendous force in southern Maryland, or I should say in the state of Maryland, or maybe in the region, in the Mid-Atlantic region, would probably be better said, because you also do work in Washington D.C. and in Virginia. You have been one of those major forces who has attempted to the best of your ability to actually connect um, individuals in order to raise the self-esteem of minorities, the confidence level of minorities, not only in the classroom, especially outside of the classroom, and you have done that through several organizations. One of them, which is the most current one that you had, which is Team Onward. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on that organization?
Such a beautiful organization, working, starting with cultural festivals, because it's one of the best ways to get people to see in a festive environment. Giving Kwanzaa programs that taught, words and songs in Swahili, traditions from West, East, South, North Africa, reclaiming it. Also doing Juneteenth, adding that African element to Juneteenth, not just as an African American celebration, but always tying it into the roots of our people. So that was really, really essential, is to give people an opportunity and repetition,
Mhm.
because repetition, call and response, is a major element in African culture.
Right,
Somebody says it and then you repeat it.
right,
and it's the way you learn at the beginning of your life. You learn your ABCs through song.
Right.
This is how children learn, and it goes into a different part of our brain. Also through tasting delicious food, our traditional foods,
Right.
understanding that, and that ties into the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And originally, what I really hoped to do when I retired from teaching was to spend my energy trying to expand educational opportunities for my brothers and sisters, no matter where they be, in Africa, in the Caribbean. Uh, I'll take you. If you're in France, that's
Right.
fine. Wherever you are, we need to get busy
Right.
taking care of our children and building a brighter future where we have control
Mm-hmm.
of our lives and our destinies. So we started out with this organization, STEAM Onward,
Mm-hmm.
which is uh, science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine.
Right.
But let's face it, we couldn't do it without the arts.
Right.
So the A in STEAM is the arts.
Gotcha.
So we work using scientific methodologies to have young people, our youngest members, 8 years old, and our oldest members, I hate to say it, are pushing in their 30s. And our goal is to have them be able to learn something and then immediately apply
Yeah.
that knowledge to create opportunities for themselves, hands-on experiential learning, and to I think with STEAM Onward, our vision has been to add that element of entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
So if you do something, if you think of something, if you can make something and create something, then how can that sustain you? How
Right.
could that turn into a job or, a hustle or a revenue stream
Right.
to enhance you and build your knowledge and confidence as well.
Right. Yeah. With that being said, let's go into a quick break and take a look at some of the images of some of the programs that Steam Onward has, and we'll be right back in two and two. This is Diaspora Central with Gil Ingles, and my guest today is Bonita Adeeb of Steam Onward.
This is the story of what seeds mean to me. This is iron and clay, a cowpea that came on ships with our ancestors who were brought here as a part of the mid-Atlantic slave trade. This is Stone Mountain watermelon that my family farmed in Winnsboro, South Carolina, that allowed our family to make enough money so that the girls and the women did not have to work outside the home. The work of seeds allow us to reconnect with our roots in Africa, to be good stewards of these seeds and pass them on to future generations.
And we are back. If you have just tuned in, you are now listening to Diaspora Central. And my guest today is Bonita Adeeb of the organization Steam Onward, a nonprofit organization that has as its primary purpose to assist young individuals. And I don't even say guys anymore. I just say individuals, so that entails everyone. Bonita, welcome to Diaspora Central. Um, let's get back into Steam Onward. Um, I'm sure that you saw the need for an organization such as that one, probably as you were in the classrooms and around the community. I'm sure.
Well, as a classroom teacher, you come very quickly to realize that schools can't do everything that needs to be done for our community. I don't believe it's a job of schools to do everything.
Yeah.
I grew up in Southern California, and the Vietnamese kids went to school on Saturday. The
Okay.
Jewish kids went to school on Saturday. They did not expect the school system to be responsible for teaching their culture, their history, and their values.
Got you.
And so I've been doing this after school work for 40 years
Wow.
because because I can control that time,
Right.
and we can decide what we think is right and
Hmm.
best and most suitable to accomplish what we want to do with our babies.
Yeah. Now, how challenging was it?
Well, in Los Angeles, the work when I started this work 40 years ago, it was a very simple. I grew up in I was in a multicultural community. I was in the Hollywood community and had many resources
Right.
and knew lots of people with deep pockets.
Okay.
So whenever we had an idea, I also had a very large budget
Right.
to spend for activities. You come up with an idea, I could put out a call to friends, and they would come in.
Hmm.
We could do plays, we would build sets and do productions for. At that point, I was teaching elementary,
Hmm.
and my friends from Hollywood would come in and do set design, and we would do these amazing activities. But when we moved to Southern Maryland, it was quite the opposite.
Okay.
Here, working in Maryland, the rural areas, children had close to no resources. There was no internet access. There was no opportunity for culture and the arts, which I had grown up with,
Hmm.
and there was a hunger, you know.
Okay.
And also, everybody thought I was real cool and a gangster because I was from Los Angeles, because
There
they
you go.
gave me props, I was an
No,
OG Crip,
no, now you came into Maryland right around the time in which the thing of East Coast West Coast was right about to pop off. So there was already some sort of a division between those. Correct? There was you came to Maryland
Mm,
in early, was it late 80s or early 90s?
89 is the
It
year
was
I moved
right.
here.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you have always, I mean, that you done and you done very well was you definitely came in, you embraced the community embraced you also. You made very good friends, especially even in governmental institutions. You are one of the major, I could say, um how can I say, one of the major voices for the community before some of the Southern Maryland government institutions. You defend a lot of members of the community that they don't have resources, and you try to put in place programs to actually assist them. Now, you mentioned hunger in Southern Maryland, and that's something sometimes a bit difficult to understand, because when you are talking about America, to put America and hunger together don't even quite go together, right? Especially when America is one of the countries that gives more food to to the rest of the world through several federal programs and things like that. So tell us some of the programs that you had to put in place to solve that issue of hunger within your own community.
I think at first when we started looking at hunger, we began to just assess who was hungry and found out there's a lot of hungry kids. And so when you're looking at a community that on the surface looks middle class, it looks like everybody lives in houses and that are nice, you think that people have it. But many people who live in this region are house poor.
Right.
And there has been a historic practice of keeping certain communities silent in their place and in the woods behind
Mm.
trees. I mean,
Okay.
you could drive down the highway
Right.
on 301 and not know that there was 1,000 people living behind the Walmart, in
Oh
tent
wow.
housing. And
Yeah.
so, working with high school kids and working with them on problem solving issues and listening to them, you find out that they may be well dressed, but their meals are inconsistent. Their housing, the
Mhm.
water is on and off, the lights are on and off. And when I was down in the Lackey community in Southern Maryland, there were kids that had no running water. There were
Mm.
kids that had dirt floors. Yes, 30 miles from the capital, people living as they were, back in the day.
Wow.
So just first of all, shining a light on poverty
Hmm.
and suburban poverty as well. People just don't realize that you may have a good job working for the government, but if your house note is $2,000 a month, and and you have to feed families. You have to the cost of driving back and forth.
Right.
There may be nothing left at the end of the day.
Right.
So the picture of hunger is quite broad.
Hmm.
And recently, with the bread lines and the food lines, that has forced people into reckoning with the fact that
Right.
you could have a job one day and then the next day not.
Right. Right.
So it really was in our face.
Yeah, definitely. Now, your organization actually is currently doing a program to sort of assist the eradication of hunger, not only in the States, but also throughout the world. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
I I really feel so honored to have this opportunity. Our goal was to teach young people how to be of support to their families by having young people raise food gardens and grow nutritious food and herbs and vegetables to supplement what their parents could do. We saw high school and middle school kids as an underutilized resource that
Mhm.
could serve their families. So after the earthquake in Haiti, we started working on this initiative to
Mhm.
teach young people how to do this work to serve their families and their communities. And eventually that turned into a business.
Okay.
The kids wrote a business plan in which they would sell seeds, they would
Mhm.
sell seedlings and native trees, nuts and fruit in order to support their other initiatives.
Okay.
So just about the time they were ready to launch their initiatives, COVID hit and shut down everything that
Mhm.
they had planned for years. They worked on this launch. And so it appeared that nothing good could have was going to happen. And they were very sad they couldn't go to school. They were literally shut out of the school in 2 days,
Right.
leaving stuff behind. And that's where we were working with the public schools and the public libraries for our meeting spaces. And an opportunity came to me from one of the farmers who was consulting to me that there was an organization that had seen the need arising, had understood that there was going to be a complete breakdown in the food distribution system,
Mhm.
that there was going to be actually a run on seeds.
Okay.
So if you wanted to start your garden, you couldn't. And there were a group of people who were getting together to try to deal with what was a problem that had been in the making forever. And that organization is called the Co-op Gardens Commission.
Okay.
Um, with nothing else to do except
Mhm.
sit on my couch watching television, I joined this organization,
Right.
and over 2,000 people across the country joined to look at how we could begin to tackle the horrific things that we all saw in the news, the food lines.
Mhm.
So we got donations from heirloom seed companies. I'll go back to white heirloom later.
Okay.
And we were able to distribute seeds through 257 seed hubs. Steam Armor became a seed hub, providing free seeds to the area known as the DMV, which is Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland.
Okay.
And because the kids had set up this online business to sell seeds,
Mhm.
we received free seed donations, and we were able to use that same system to deliver seeds now wherever they want, whoever needs free seeds.
Right.
And we've started this amazing free seed movement.
Yeah. And this is a worldwide program, correct?
It is worldwide.
Yeah.
So, as a matter of fact, last week I had an order from France.
Mhm.
We have So Steam Armor, because we always had an African initiative,
Mhm.
we immediately started to organize with our Caribbean brothers and sisters, partnerships we had with Caribbean organizations. And it turned out we had partners in the Virgin Islands, in Belize, in Panama, and in people from the Garifuna
Okay.
and Jamaica and Haiti. And then on the continental side, we had always been working with Angola and Ghana. We received requests from Niger, from Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Cameroon,
Mhm.
and Kenya. and that is growing also. We'll have a partner in Botswana.
Right.
What we realize is everything's complicated, as we know, but our people in Africa know how to farm, but
Right.
there's reasons why their farms are not as productive as they want. First
Mm-hmm.
of all, they're getting second rate seeds. And also, Monsanto and other major seed companies want to sell them genetically modified seeds that cannot be reproduced.
Oh,
And
got
I
you.
think just inherently, many Africans knew that was not a good idea
Right.
for these genetically modified seeds. So what we are doing now is we're teaching people how to seed save,
Okay.
which is a practice that Americans had almost completely forgotten.
Yeah.
People throughout the diaspora may know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But putting better quality seeds and traditional seeds back in the hands of people. We
Mm-hmm.
have been able to get seeds from the vault, 500 varieties of seeds
Oh, wow.
from all different places, Ethiopia, the Sudan,
Right.
different places, and we're trying to rematriate those seeds
Okay.
back to the people where
But
they came from
wait
originally.
1 second, because I got I just want to clarify that. Is that really true that there's a vault of seeds?
There's many.
Oh, wow.
There's a huge one in Norway
Okay.
that they're so, they can take care of seeds so much better than the people who own them can.
Right.
So yes, there's seed banks,
Hmm.
several in the world.
Got you.
The one at USDA has thousands of varieties. They have just recently, in the last 2 weeks, shipped us 500 varieties from the countries that I just named.
Mm-hmm.
Another cool thing, though, we've been able to do is we realized when we started talking to our brothers and sisters and
Okay.
our grandmas and aunties in the developing world that they weren't suffering from COVID the way we were.
Right.
It was like, how is that? How come you're not dying of these diseases? And then we began to learn about traditional foods, herbs, and remedies they were using
Right.
that were protecting them.
Right.
As you know, people throughout the diaspora have not had nearly the kind of illness and death that Americans have had.
Right.
So even though we may be giving them something,
Right.
they're giving us back knowledge,
Right.
and we are now growing those seeds
Yeah.
of the healing herbs as well.
Indeed.
So our goal is to start a diaspora seed company that specializes in these traditional seeds, and we're on the way to do that now.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go on and take another quick break and go into take a look at some more images of STEAM onward and some of the programs that they have. And when we get back, I kind of want to touch on the technology and the exchange of information between um, the your organization, some of the programs that your organization is putting in place to exchange knowledge between the U.S. and the continent of Africa. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. This is Diaspora Central with Gil Ingles.
Choose to be tobacco free. A tobacco free lifestyle offers many benefits. Benefits that will last a lifetime. Quit smoking, and food will taste better. Be tobacco free, and you'll have fresher breath and even whiter teeth. Be free of tobacco, your hair will smell better, and your clothes will smell better. Quit smoking so you can climb stairs, do house and yard work without losing your breath. Staying active is easier when you are tobacco free. Secondhand smoke is unhealthy to the people around you. So by being free of tobacco, you are protecting the health of your family and friends. And when you quit smoking, you'll be setting a positive example for your children and your grandchildren. You will also improve your family finances by being free of tobacco. Eliminate the thousands of dollars you spend on cigarettes. Reduce your insurance rates and lower your medical expenses as well. Live a longer life. Live a tobacco-free life.
And we are back. If you have just joined us, you are now tuned to Diaspora Central with Gil Ingles. And my guest today is Bonita Adeeb of Steam Onward from the Mid-Atlantic region, specifically from Maryland, Southern Maryland. Bonita,
Yes.
the exchange of information, before we went into a break, we were talking about the exchange of information between Africa and America, Europe and America, America and the rest of the world. You actually have programs on Steam Onward that sort of facilitate that process. I know that at one point you were doing, trying to put together a program that would actually allow young individuals from the African continent who haven't had the opportunity of studying engineering and engineering students in America to actually be put together so that they could learn from each other based on their experiences. Tell us really the essence and the benefits that, or even the reason why you came up with an idea such as that, because it's not every day that someone sitting on this side of the continent would actually think of something like that.
Well, I guess they don't have ancestors like mine that are constantly waking me up in the middle of the night, making me reach out to my cousins abroad. I mean, I have no other choice. The work I do is inspired by my deep love and respect for my heritage and my family,
Right.
be they here or abroad. So I have no other choice. I have to do the work. So once you start listening, then you start getting messages. May I say that our dreams of supporting technology and partnering with our brothers and sisters throughout the diaspora would not be possible without technology.
Right.
We are in the age that allows us to reach out, to provide lessons, workshops, video, photography, all the projects that we have on the continent. I can pick up the telephone and get somebody to answer
Right.
and know what's going on. I get video, I get footage, I get information. We do a bi-monthly talk with grandmothers that are all over the diaspora, talking about healing herbs and what their grandmothers did.
Yeah.
So we're going all the way back into history. Now, the way we can do this is because I must tell you, we have Zoom. We also use Maestro.
Right.
We use Google Documents, the whole Google suite.
Okay.
We use all kinds of technologies that allow us to teach
Right.
and be taught. Here's the deal. There's lessons that have to go both ways.
Okay.
And the lack of information that my people have about themselves and their roots is keeping them from prospering.
Gotcha.
And my African brothers and sisters, with just the smallest amount of support, already are doing all these things. They know how to farm. They're quite literate. Schools all over Africa are putting out fantastic scholars, engineers, people with degrees in all kinds of agriculture, economics. So what we need to do is find ways to cross-pollinate and also ways to support financially projects. Right now, I'm working with a young gentleman in Kenya who's trying to do a GoFundMe to support the village work that he's doing. And I think that our next struggle is to get some of these resources developed so that we can better deal with large and small scale projects. For instance, microloans. One of our partners in Cameroon has worked with microfinance. And small loans of $15, $20, $50 can help, small business thrive in many places throughout the continent. So we just need to, we have to develop a different way of thinking. But one of the ways to do that is to build that connection. And I think you do that through food, through music, through culture, and fashion. Don't forget fashion.
Right.
A project called Dyes, Fibers, and Food. And it's all about fashion, the African manifestation of design in contemporary African American culture.
Indeed.
People are buying some kente cloth, trust me, and patterns and mud cloth There's designers going nuts and
Hmm.
all this stuff.
Right.
And people are reawakening traditional arts and design crafts
Right.
on the continent as well.
Right, indeed. Now, the respect for tradition is actually one of the things that you also very well known, because I know that you were one of the first individuals. I mean, I lived in that region, and you were actually the person who brought up to me the Gibbs family's museum. It was Gibbs, right? The family that had a museum in Southern Maryland.
Oh, I think you're talking about um, yes, Charles Diggs.
Diggs, the Diggs
Yes,
family, right?
Charles
The Diggs
Diggs.
family,
Oh my
right?
goodness, he was the
See,
keeper of the history.
right,
Oh
and I mean,
wow.
and that's something. I mean, that's something that, for instance, I learned from you, right? It's something that I learned from you. It was right around the corner, and very few of us knew about it, but it was right there in the community. So, people like you were actually able to awaken that in us, and push that respect for tradition, for culture, and even for religion. Now, you have programs also. This organization also has supported and does programs pertaining to traditional gospel music, right? For
That's
children.
right.
Tell us a
Yeah.
bit about those programs, and the fashion, the gospel music, and that stuff. Tell us a bit about that program.
Nobody can understand anything you say if you're not speaking their language. You
Okay.
have to speak their language.
Right.
What do we care about?
Hmm.
We care about the driving beat, the rhythm.
There you go.
And you know it. I can catch your attention with the right rhythm.
Right.
If you have style,
Hmm.
if you have swag,
Right.
I can catch your attention.
There you go.
Uh-huh. And if I smell something yummy in
Hmm.
the kitchen cooking,
Right.
or if I get that fragrance, those collard greens, that cornbread,
Right.
whatever that is,
Hmm.
I can get your attention
Right.
and connect with you on a whole deeper level,
Hmm.
you know.
Right.
And one of the things that we've been able to do is bring people into discussion by using all those things.
Okay.
For instance, we used to give when we give Kwanzaa, we always included a fashion show.
Okay.
So in that, we talked about traditional fashions and the reflections of that in modern day culture. Every year we did it for 20 some years. We did
Hmm.
fashion shows.
Okay.
One of the things that you talked about Mr. Diggs.
Right.
One of the things he had done, he was a collector, and he had been able to acquire Harriet Beecher Stowe's cabin that
Hmm.
was in the famous book that she wrote that made people aware of the horrors of slavery, Uncle Tom's Cabin. He
Okay.
bought that
Oh wow.
and the things that were inside it.
Right.
What he was doing is he was going around to churches or whoever with these artifacts,
Hmm.
and he was showing people uh, a ball and chain that was uh, used by some of our local ancestors
Right.
here.
Oh wow.
What happened when you ran away?
Right.
They cut your toes off.
Oh
You
wow.
know, if you tried to run away too much, they put this thing around your neck that would keep you from getting through doors and running through the woods.
Oh wow.
And he made it real.
Mm.
And he also had the papers for the trial of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. He had
Oh
the
wow.
trial papers,
Right.
the original newspaper articles
Oh wow.
that covered that trial. And that trial took place, and the people who were a part of the assassination team were
Right.
local names that are still local in this area.
Right.
So he brought that, it was real.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we have to do with all of this, is to find ways to connect on a deeper level,
Hmm.
and through that, that work. And I think, I'm going to say hip hop, because hip hop is
Right.
so respectful.
Right.
If you look at the amazing work that's being done,
Hmm.
and also the pollination of music across the continent, the sharing of cultures,
Right.
Simba, Samba, and all the wonderful things that we've talked about with Kizomba and the roots of our music,
Right.
the conga drum,
Right.
that also brings in the Latin American connection.
Right.
There's also in the Philippines, that
Hmm.
there's also a piece with the Lusophone and Francophone countries.
Right.
So by bridging all these gaps, we can find ways to connect our people
Yeah.
because they do want to come to reckon with the
Hmm.
past. Can
Indeed.
I tell one little tiny story?
Yeah, sure.
This is
Yeah, sure. We like
when,
stories in Diaspora Central. We love stories.
yes.
Yeah.
So when I go out to try to convince people that they should start with kitchen science, it's backyard science. Here's
Hmm.
a plant. Here's some seeds,
Right.
and let's talk about how they relate to you. So whenever I go out, I take this okra
Okay.
pod. It's a dry okra pod,
Hmm.
and I tell people that okra came with the Africans. That African mothers wove seeds into their children's hair and into their clothing and in the amulets around their neck because African mothers did not know where their children would be going, but they wanted to ensure their survival in the new world and that they could thrive in the new world.
Right.
And as I tell that story, people get very emotional,
Hmm.
and I see people well up with tears. And
Right.
I found that through my investigation is there's so many people didn't realize that their mothers loved them,
Right.
that African mothers loved their
Right.
children
Right.
and had hope and wish for a bright future.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why I'm on this sea journey now,
Hmm.
because I've been able to find all these different ways
Right.
I can prove my point
Indeed.
that we are still connected. Our traditions on New Year's Eve,
Hmm.
what we eat, our food traditions, they're all they're actually alive and well. Maybe we
Right.
don't know the word
Yeah.
Kizomba or
Right.
speak the traditional languages anymore,
Right.
but we still are practicing those.
Oh, definitely. I've seen similarities of Kizomba. Hand dancing is one of them.
Mhm.
It's something that is very well alive in the African American community. I mean, of course, in the Latin community, you see a lot of Afro Latin dances that are similar to Kizomba. But hand dancing is definitely a spin-off of Kizomba, and that's something that most African American communities do.
Oh,
Um,
and they dig that.
right.
That is something that speaks to the soul.
Indeed.
That
Indeed.
rhythm gets people happy,
Right.
and when they're open
Yeah.
and listening, you
Indeed.
can better communicate.
Yeah. Now let's get a little bit into the portions of course, every organization every community organization has needs. What are some of the needs that Steam Onward currently faces, and how can people assist Steam Onward?
Um, Well, right now,
Hmm.
because COVID has so injured us, we have several campaigns that are underway. I mentioned that we give away free seeds. And so,
Right.
as a way to support that work, the young people have come up with a series of value added products
Hmm.
that they've developed
Okay.
that can support that work so that we can continue to do that. We have to buy the packaging, there's shipping and all that.
Hmm.
So you can go onto our website and you can buy a value added product.
Okay.
Um, and as this grows, as the market grows, they're now coming up with, they have taffies, they have gingerbread, they'll have cookies,
Hmm.
and our partners have teas
Okay.
and kombucha
Right.
and a whole variety of products. We have in the next few months, we'll develop our own line of natural dyes
Hmm.
that you can use: indigo, woad, kinof,
Okay.
traditional things that are used in the making of a mud cloth and the beautiful blue that is Africa.
Hmm.
One of the reasons why our ancestors were brought here also was cotton.
Right.
People don't realize that we were farming cotton and
Yeah.
indigo
Right.
and in the continent
Right.
as well. So we were not ignorant. We were specifically
Right.
sought after because of our skills in
Indeed.
agriculture and also in ironworking.
Indeed.
If you've ever been to to the Sea Islands down in Charleston. All that ironwork was done by Mindy,
Right.
iron workers from West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So as we tell our stories, we would like you to support us. You can also make a donation
Okay.
to us from that website, and there we tell you how you can what your dollars can contribute. You know, we are trying to move away from poison that dyes,
Mm-hmm.
processed food, and we're asking people to grow native fruit that
Right.
doesn't require fertilizers, it doesn't require pesticides or
Right.
fungicides.
Right.
So we will be selling native pawpaw.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know that pawpaw grows this far north, but yeah,
Yeah.
persimmon. We have nut trees. We have all kinds of berries, and from these products, even passion fruit. We have a passion fruit
Okay.
called Maypop that we'll be growing and making candy
Right.
from that this year. So keep an eye on our website.
Yeah.
But
Are
we
you
hope.
gonna give us the website address? Can you?
I
Can you?
think I should at
Yes,
this
please.
point.
Yes.
It's
Mm-hmm.
steamonward.org.
Okay. And STEAM, that's STEAMONWARD.org.
That's right.
All right.
And recently, in order to support this work as it's grown,
Mm-hmm.
our organization was able to sponsor 400 gardens last year,
Okay.
and that includes about 50 urban farms.
Hmm.
Our region has developed a tax incentive to allow people to grow. People are growing herbs for healing and wonderful things for use for food and all kinds of things.
Okay.
So we kind of organized a group of Black farmers
Mm-hmm.
that were helping teach the kids all these things.
Okay.
And so as I was going out in the markets and selling and educating people,
Mm-hmm.
people began to say, there's Black farmers in this area? I was like, yeah. Well, we thought all the Black farmers were gone. No, we still have Black farmers.
Right.
You know, I admit that many of them are highly educated.
Right.
And we started organizing Black farmers. And the first thing our Black farmers did was start a veterinary medicine internship program.
Okay.
And we have many internships. We have medical, we have a law internship,
Mm-hmm.
one for STEM, you know, one for the garden and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that project, we realized that the Black farmers in our area, many of them were veterinarians.
Mm-hmm.
We also had a lot of farmers who were struggling to hold on to their land.
Right.
And so we formed an organization of Black farmers.
Okay.
Now, this is an interesting thing. So
Mm-hmm.
as I'm out at various conferences
Right.
talking about why aren't there Black organic farmers? Why am I the only Black person at these conferences speaking?
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to many of the top heirloom seed companies in the countries whose revenues have quadrupled because of COVID, because so many more people are growing gardens now.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are rich like you can't believe.
Right.
And as we begin to talk about how Black people were literally run out of the South, we were run out of agriculture
Right.
by the Night Riders and the Klan. We snuck out of the South and left our farmland. Many of us ran away from
Right.
sharecropping,
Right.
which was impossible to ever win.
Right.
But people actually left their land. My family still owns much land, and we left the South because it was dangerous there.
Right.
And there were not opportunities as there are now.
Mm-hmm.
So from this work, we realized that people do want to farm now because
Yeah.
they consider it a wholesome way of life.
Okay.
They want to hold on to their property and want to buy good quality food that they trust,
Yeah.
because a lot of the food in the stores is dangerous, as you know.
Yeah.
There's something called the Dirty Dozen, which
Okay.
is a list of all the most poisonous food that's in the grocery store.
Oh wow.
And so it is baby food and children's food.
Mm.
Really alarming. Anyway, people want to do this work. So
Yeah.
we've put together an organization to consult to us and help with us called Ujamaa Farming.
Okay.
And some of you who know Kwanzaa know Ujamaa is collective worker responsibility. You know, we have so many good basic principles in the Ngusa Saba, which is the basic teachings of Kwanzaa.
Yeah. Why don't you
Mhm.
spell Ujamaa for our audience, especially for our listening audience, our
Okay.
radio audience that may not be looking at a screen?
Okay, so it's UJAMAA
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so we started a farming group. And once these farmers got together, it was so fun being
Right.
with all these Black farmers. I mean, we came up with so many ideas. And so as I presented at national conferences, some of the wealthy seed companies found out that we had organized Black farmers and have approached us about doing a reparations project with us,
Okay.
in which they will help to restore us to our traditional trades. One of them was seed farming,
Okay.
and that trade only 1% of Black farmers are still doing that.
Okay.
And they would help fund us into a startup for a Black-owned seed company specializes in diasporic
Okay.
products.
Okay.
So I feel that we should have help from the Black community, that this is a major enterprise that will
Indeed.
help our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Indeed.
For instance, in the northern part of Cameroon, where Boko Haram is quite active,
Yeah.
you know, Boko Haram is kidnapping girls as we speak. They're a terrorist organization that is plaguing Nigeria and that whole central part of Africa. And they've really made it so difficult for farmers to grow their food.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these people know how to farm,
Right.
but when they go to get the food, the seeds are not good. They're not vital. So even though they farm, they may put out 100 seeds, only a few plants come up. So we want to be able to put good quality seeds
Okay.
in the hands of farmers who know what they need to do. Now, we may have to modify it because of climate change. You know, farming
Right.
practices
Right.
have to be modified.
Right.
But this is the work that we really hope that your audience is interested in supporting.
Definitely.
And so we want to use technology as a way to find out what our family needs. When I say family, I'm talking about the whole diaspora,
Right.
and how we can work together
Right.
to build our community and support each other in these times
Okay.
of change.
Yeah. No, definitely. Now you also have you also do a art music project, annual project. You want to briefly talk about that? We don't have much time left, but let's briefly touch
Oh,
on that so that we can
don't make me cry, Gil, because doggone COVID has canceled so many of our programs.
right.
Um, we normally give at least 3 programs a year, sometimes 4. We give an annual gospel program, which allows particularly the young folks, all these, you know, amazing young gospel artists and community to come together and have an opportunity to perform.
Right.
Many of them original writers,
Yeah.
you know, giving them a showcase. We also have a talent show we give for youth between the ages of 5 and 21, which is a talent competition. That competition would be going on, except the kids are not in school. We normally use the school and the community as a way to get the word out to the kids.
Right.
They can compete. It allows also opportunities for our alum who don't have opportunities to perform to come and perform.
Right.
In addition to that, we work with another Black organization called CAPA, Coalition for
Okay.
African Americans in the Performing Arts.
Right.
Our goal is to educate people about African Americans in classical music. And people are always surprised to find out that Black people know about
Right.
classical music and can perform.
Right.
Come on, are you kidding me? Did you see the Grammys? What opera
Right.
took the Grammys?
Right.
It was Porgy and Bess.
Yeah.
It was only Black people on the stage.
Right.
Only that's all you can be in Porgy and Bess. The #1 opera in the world.
Right.
Porgy and Bess.
Yeah.
So we want to give our children these opportunities to study classical music and to perform. And if we don't support them, who will?
Yeah.
So that is forcappa.org.
Okay. Okay. Forcappa.org is the
Yeah,
website
Coalition for
Kappa.
African Americans in the Performing Arts.
Right.
We are really struggling. They're one of our partners because we have not been able to put on our program as usual. We
Right.
normally have about 70 programs a year.
Yeah.
And one of them is one where we feature our African classically trained artists.
Right.
And
Right.
that's very exciting
Yeah.
to know that many of our young folks that are studying classical music, it's what you need to do if you're going to play that piano, if you're going to be a teacher,
Right.
if you're going to have to study classical music. It's a lexicon, a basic a language that allows us to speak. When
Indeed.
we can't understand French, German, English, and Portuguese,
Right.
we can understand some notes played
Indeed,
on an instrument.
we definitely can understand music, and everything that is great always has to come to an end, and when it comes to an end, makes us a little bit sad. But I'm definitely glad that you took some time out of your schedule to sit down with us and enlighten us with some of these good knowledge, good things that we needed to know. So you gotta make me a promise that you will be back at some point so that we can talk a little bit more.
Please have me back so we can talk about African literature and the work we're doing around that,
Indeed.
and Africa Access, and all the quality literature that is available to your audience
Right.
that honors and is respectful and accurate
Right.
when it talks about our culture and our traditions in Africa.
Indeed, definitely. We will schedule you for another show just to talk about African literature and some also about some of the works and some of your travels, because you have plenty of stories to tell, and some of the initiatives that actually Steam Onward has in regards to travel to the continent, the places that are the trips and all those things that are trying to be put in place. But our time is pretty much up. Any shout outs that you would like to give before we go?
Oh, well, I'd like to thank my dear friends and supporters, my Ujamaa administrative group, and all the wonderful people that have stepped forward to support the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
Coopgardens.org, which is an organization that's donating free seeds to people. And we're looking at ways to ship those things. So if
Mhm.
you have knowledge, please help us. And I want to thank Gil, who's one of my dear trusted brothers.
Mhm.
And we want to support the work that builds our community and shows our community in the most positive light,
Right.
and make people feel empowered to take on their own challenges. You can
Indeed.
do it. You really can.
Indeed, indeed, definitely. And I have to definitely close with this, Bonita. I definitely, on behalf of just about everyone that loves Kizomba, would like to thank you for one thing that you have done for the Kizomba movement that took a lot of work and a lot of coordinating and a lot of understanding and a lot of explaining, but you were able to accomplish, which was to actually take Kizomba into a university in order to do a showcase there and be a part of a summer institute, and that was at Howard University. I definitely have to thank you for being the person behind that and for making that happen on behalf of every Angolan, on behalf of every African, and on behalf of every Kizomba lover. Thank you for that opportunity. It definitely did improve the state of Kizomba in the U.S., and hopefully we will continue to document Kizomba from an academic perspective so that
Yes.
eventually we can find even the benefits that this dance or art form has to offer our communities that we may have lost along the way.
Thank you. Just remember that I have ancestry from Angola, so
Indeed.
it's selfish on my
Indeed.
part. It's nothing like the good rhythm and the groove
Right.
propels me forward,
Right.
makes
And
me
and talking
happy.
about us century, I know that we already out of time, but I gotta say you have done yours, correct? Do you remember what yours is right
Oh
off the
yes,
top of your head?
yes,
Yeah, your
yes.
percentages. Would
Yeah,
Can you share them with us?
24% in Angola, 25% Cameroon, and then Bantu about another 40%,
Okay.
and some Wolof from the West.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a pure African, let me tell you
There you
that.
go.
I'm the real deal.
All right, Bonita Adeeb. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you in. And if there is one thing that you gotta get out of this program is the following. Remember that your heritage is important, and in your heritage you can find solutions to sometimes problems that you cannot find solutions for here.
Amen.
Until next time, thank you for listening. Peace.